Hello, this is Carrie from It's All About You, and today I want to tell you a little bit about a natal chart. What is a natal chart? I want to show it to you and show you what you get with a reading. So let me share my screen with you, and I will show you. All right. Let me make this a little bit bigger. All right, I think we're here. Okay, so this is a chart. This is my chart. I just wanted to show you something that I can share. And if you've never seen a natal chart, what this is would be a snapshot of when you were born, the actual moment of our solar system when you were born. So if you've seen this, just follow along, and if you haven't, or if you don't understand it very well, I hope to orient you a little bit more about your natal chart and show you what comes with it and what a reading is and what is in the report. So at the moment that whoever I'm looking at is born, it will have their name, the date, the time, where, and then it calculates the latitude and longitude, and then it tells you what time zone this is. So how many hours from Greenwich Mean Time it is. And at this place, it was 6 hours. This is all very specific for calculating where everything was, to, where all the planets were, where the sun, the moon. And that is significant, as you will see, because these are all relationships between these huge bodies, these planets, and the sun, of course, and the moon. And for lack of any other way, just a quick explanation, just think of maybe gravitational pull, or, these bodies in space are moving around. These things have effect. So they are making mathematical angles. So let me just give you one quick idea of what the mathematical angle might be. If you were to say somebody's standing in front of you and you were to grab that person's hand and then each of you pull in the opposite direction, all right, that's called an opposition. Those forces are moving apart. All right, I'm just going to give you one so you get an idea of how these planets interact. If something is sitting right next to something else, it's going to be intense. It's like, hey, get out of my space. As opposed to if something is totally opposite, it's different. I mean, summer, winter, it's totally different. You live in, from the summertime, it's hot. In the wintertime, it's very cold. So if you just think about those and apply that to what I'm going to tell you about is a natal chart. All right, so doesn't matter all of these gobbledygook if you know what these are or not. You can learn over time, or it doesn't really matter. But I will just point out a few things. These are on the outside. Well, here, let me just look inside of this wheel. Now, if we made a 2D, two-dimensional representation of 3D, it's like, we have to take all of space. That's all the way around us. It's 3D. And I have to smash it down into a two-dimensional picture. This is what I've done. This is what a natal chart is. It's pushed down and it's put everything kind of in a flat wheel. Now, if you look over here at, I'm going to say where it says number 1, but let's just pretend this is a clock. This is like the face of a clock, and you're looking at the clock. So right over here between this, like 12 and 1, this would be what we're going to say 9 o'clock. So everybody's in agreement on how we're going to look at this. So opposite of 9, way over here on this side would be 3 o'clock. And then straight up would be noon or 12 o'clock, midnight, whatever time it is. And then we're going to say down here, actually for this purpose, we're going to say this one is noon. And then for this one down here, all the way at the bottom of the chart would be midnight or 6 o'clock. So we have our 9 o'clock, and we're going to say this is sunrise. And just hang with me a second. And then opposite here would be sunset, or our 3 o'clock. Our 12 o'clock would be, noon in this case. And then our bottom down here on the very bottom, or we're going to say is midnight. So what's happening here I'm going to start on the outside so you get a little representation of what's going on. If we were to rise up over the place that you were born, like the house or the hospital, just like pretend like the moment you're born, boop, and we're going to just drift up out of the roof and look east. And we're going to look east, and if we could see the constellations, or if you had your app on your phone that shows you the constellations, you can just hold it to the east and you can see what constellation was rising over the horizon. If we could see the horizon line, we would see a constellation part of the way up, all the way up, most of the way up, some degree of rising over that horizon line. And what I mean by constellation, there's the Big Dipper, there's, Orion's Belt, okay, all those, but these are the constellations of the zodiac because they go all the way around and then they repeat again. And the sun, if we were to look at the sun, it's going to be in front of one of those or any of the other planets. So that's going to let us know where it's at. All right, hang with me here. So if we're going to look over to the east, we're going to notice this constellation rising. And in this case, we're going to look over here and we're going to see this 03 degrees and some little weird sign here, 04 minutes. This means right here at this instance that you're looking at is 3 degrees Leo, 4 minutes. That's telling you how much that constellation has risen over the horizon line. Now, in the course of the day, we have 24 hours in a day. So each of these constellations is, it's going to be approximately 2 hours. And then the next one will come up. Now, let's just say it this way. Every 2 hours, a new one comes up. And in 24 hours, you're all the way back. So it takes 2 hours for a sign to rise up. So that means there's 12 of them. So 12 times 2, 24. All right, and then they slightly, they keep sliding up over into the next one and the next one. So now what does that mean? Well, in this case, when I was born, and we'll say how I know, well, I said I was born at 11, almost noon. So if I told you straight up, remember I said like straight up was noon. If we look for the sun, and I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, and this little circle with the dot in it is the sun. And the sun at this time of the year, on April 6th, it was 16 degrees Aries, and on that day it was 57 minutes. So if somebody was born, if you know their time, you can pretty much know where it is to kind of double check yourself. All right, so let me orient you again. If we rose up over the place I was born, we looked to the east, we would see this sign rising. And I don't have anything in this area. It's okay. There's not, sometimes that happens that way. there's 12 places and 10 signs or 10 things. So something's going to be missing anyway. So now if we look around and we notice, okay, I told you this one was Leo, and it's just starting to rise over the horizon. This line here, this here thing between 12 and 1 is the horizon line. I know it's kind of weird. Just think about it for a second. So this constellation is just starting to come up over the horizon line. So we see this constellation rising. Now I'm going to just tell you what all of these are as I go around. So the next one that would come up, would rise. I wish I could move this without too much trouble, but just imagine then 2 hours later, this one here would be rising because it's all going this way. It's all going like that, clockwise. Okay, so the next one would be coming up would be Virgo. And then the next one coming up, let me move that. I'll show you. Maybe. There we go. Then the next one coming up would be Libra. And then Scorpio. This is Scorpio. It's upside down. It's an M with a little tail on it. And then over here, Sagittarius. And then over here is Capricorn. And then there's Aquarius. And then there's Pisces right here. This is the sign for Aries. This is Taurus. This is Gemini. And this is Cancer. All right. Now that you know that, I'm going to tell you a couple other things. Each of these, if we know that this is 360 degrees, this whole circle, and if we divide it by 12, that means that there's 12 divisions of 30. And I'm going to say each of those is approximately, each of these houses is approximately 30 degrees. You'll see here that this one looks shorter, smaller to me, and then like this one over here, number 5, looks bigger, and that's true. And let me just say this is kind of cool. The more north you are born on a planet, the more warped your chart is, the more of those houses will be unequal because of the shape of the earth. It gets, shorter going up that circle. Now, if you're born close to the equator or on the equator, all of these houses will be equal length. So that's kind of cool, but we'll talk about that in some other thing. But that's why these look different to you. So anyway, that's okay. These are just that place of life. So we have planets now in different places. At that time, in April 1964, Well, we know April, spring, so we know that the sun is going to be in Aries. So we have the sun in Aries here. And then at that time, Mars was also in Aries. That day, it happened to be 6 degrees. The sun was at 16. It's telling you exactly where it was. All of these other, these are called glyphs, and these stand for the different planets. So let me just go here out from the sun. I'm going to go clockwise. So we have the sun. I told you that one was with Aries. And then there's Mars. That was in Aries and happens to be close to the sun. And then if we move further away, we're going to go, oh, this one was Saturn. And Saturn is 1 degree in Pisces. And at that time, the moon was 3 degrees Aquarius. Nothing was in Capricorn. Nothing was in Sagittarius. Neptune down here was 17 degrees Scorpio. And the little R means retrograde. Planets do what's an apparent retrograde motion. They don't move backwards, of course, but it looks like that from where we're at. We'll have to go over retrogrades in another video. Anyway, that's what that means. I just want you to know what these mean. Nothing was over here in this house. And then over here, there's 2 planets. This one is Pluto. Pluto is 12 degrees Virgo. And Uranus was 6 degrees Virgo. They're both retrograde. Nothing in the 1st house, nothing in the 12th house. Over here in the 11th house, this is Venus. Venus was 2 degrees Gemini, 39 minutes. I'm not saying the minutes. There's seconds also, but that's okay. And then up here near the top is Mercury. Mercury is 6 degrees Taurus. And we come back to Jupiter at 28 degrees Aries, and we're back to the sun. So everybody has something somewhere, and these all interact. You can see these things here in the middle. These are telling you what angles they are. See the orange one over here is square, or red, orange, that's a square. So 90 degrees. We'll talk about that. The triangle is a trine. This little blue one is called an inconjunct. This other red one here, opposing, here's a little circle. Circle is an opposition. These are opposite. What else is here? Here's the green, looks like a little asterisk. That's a sextile. Those are 60 degrees apart. So these all mean something, and they all have relationships. It's like a family. This is a family. And then, do these people have to share the same bedroom? There's nobody in this bedroom. There's a bunch of people on this side of the house. This is, these are all things that interact. So this is a natal chart. And it comes with a interpretation, and you can see this pretty good. So it tells me, it's going to tell me when you get this, all of the positions. It says, again, I told you the sun was 16 degrees Aries. It has the little ARI and tells you, instead of the little glyph. The moon, I said, was 3 degrees Aquarius right there. So it tells you, it abbreviates that, where all those are. Now, this report is pretty cool. It tells you, there's several chapters to it, and it's quite complete. But before I kind of get into this, let me just say this. It's best to study your natal report yourself and study it in many ways. Get something like a computer generated one, because these are pretty good. I've done astrology for a long time. I've done in old school where I've done all the calculations by hand with all the books and all the references, and it takes quite some time. So it's really nice to type in and have something out like that. So anyway, there's these interpretations which sum up a lot of research, but then you can also cross-reference these things with other authors' interpretations and living astrologers. So you will find things that are contradictory. And, we are all contradictory people. You'll find that you are, we have these opposing sides of ourselves, and you'll see that you go, oh, that's not me, that's not like, but then it's like something that kind of negates it or offsets it. So it all has to be taken in, all has to be taken into the shuffle. So what this report does is that the very first part, chapter 1, how you approach life and how you appear to others. And this starts out with your rising sign, which is your face or your mask to the world. And I showed you mine was Leo. So I have a Leo rising, and it goes on with that. It's all about. Then it goes into chapter 2 is the inner you, your real motivation. And it goes into where your sun is. So mine, it says the sun is in Aries. It talks about that. But then it also tells me where it's at. The sun is in the 9th house. Now, if you're not really familiar with houses, all that doesn't matter. But I'm going to flip back here and show you. So we have here, the sun is in Aries. That's going to tell me one part, that pioneering, energetic, enthusiastic, fun, loud, cantankerous side of me. And then it's in this ninth house of higher mind, inspiration, on to the next, hope, all these things. So then it meshes the meaning of those two things. So this will show you the meaning, it kind of goes in detail. So then it tells me now the sun is in the ninth house. Trying to scroll here so you can see it. Then it's going to tell me the next chapter is the mental interests and abilities. It's going to tell me where my Mercury is. Mercury is about the mind. That planet travels close to the sun. It's never very far away from the sun. It will always be one sign either side of the sun or in the same sign. So say I told you my sun is in Aries. So Mercury will either be in Aries or the sign before or after Aries, which is before it was Pisces and after it is Taurus. So it's just kind of cool. It travels that close to the sun. So anyway, it tells me what Mercury in Taurus, because I have it in Taurus. And then I also have it in the 10th house. And then it's telling me if it's making any aspects to anything. See, my sun, it tells later. Shows it here, Mercury in 10th house. Then it says Mercury is trining Uranus. So it's making a trine, 120-degree angle over to the planet Uranus. I don't want to keep flipping back and showing, well, I'll show you this one. I won't keep doing each of them, but let me show you that. So we have Mercury up here, 6 degrees Taurus. And then you can see that over here is another 6 degree. So it said Uranus, and that's at 6 degrees, and it was Virgo. So I just happened, these are both Earth. So Earth and Earth are trine. Anything that's the same element is trining the other. So here it is. There's that trine. It's 120 degrees away. And that means an ease and flow. That's nice. That's a good aspect. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the rest. So then it shows you any other aspects it's making, and then it'll go into where the moon is at. It says emotions, mood, feeling, romance. It shows you my moon's in Aquarius. It's in the 7th house, and then its aspects. Then at Venus, it will show you where Venus is. Then it goes into your drive and ambition, which is where your Mars is, and that's how you achieve your goals. What kind of energy? Do you have any drive or are you not? And we all have parts of this more than others. Other influences, Jupiter. Jupiter tends to magnify anything it's close to. So this is showing you where that is. Saturn. Saturn is where there's restriction or structure. Uranus is where it says going further out from the sun now. And then as we get further out, we get more generational so much than individual, but it still has an individual effect. And it was in Virgo, in my 2nd house, blah, 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 and then in Neptune, and then we go into Pluto. So it goes through all of these, where they're at and how it translates into your life. So this is a natal chart, and I hope that you can see a little bit of how this will roll out. So you can have the chart, you get the wheel, and then you get the interpretation of that. Hope you enjoy that. Hope it makes sense.